I woke up one day full of excitement to work on my cosplay, but then I realized that I'm done with Killjoy. So while I sat there thinking, I remembered someone saying, Loki would fit you with that hair. So I took my bag and went shopping. After a successful trip, I came back with black, green and gold fabric, fake leather and some clips, and minus $100. After measuring my body, I made a pattern for the tunic. I cut it out with my fancy new pizza cutter. I attached the pieces with safety pins to see how it looks. And then I cut out some stripes for the front that will be attached like this. However, the chest armor still needs to be able to go under the leather. So I folded it over and only attached it on the bottom. Then I sew on the leather part and also the green inner part so that I can keep adding the stripes until this point, where I need to sew on the golden triangle. So I cut out the shape of my pattern and sew on the smash, and then put it on the tunic and add a snap for the back piece. After finishing the front, I started with the sleeves and cutting out a lot more stripes and then sew them on, just like I did with the front part. The only difference was that I had to put on 2 green stripes. After using all stripes that I had, I cut out even more and attached them. For the underarm, I put on this shape to sew on some vertical stripes. I am making Avengers Loki, or the first episode of the series Loki. He has so many different outfits, but I'm pretty sure it's called King Loki. I hope that's true. Please don't hate me, DC fans. But why Loki and not Thor, Captain America, the Bird Dude or Gigantic Green Goblin? I really wanna get hated, huh? It's actually just because of the hair. For the collar I cut out the shape, then made it out of fabric and sew it on. And I also hid the seam because the cheap black fabric is a little bit itchy. Then I sew on a zipper to put on the tunic way easier. I prepared the parts to sew on the sleeves to the tunic. I put a zipper on the side so that I am able to put it on. Then I closed all open sides and the tunic was almost done, but I forgot the sleeve ends. So I made the shape, putting on velcro for later and then cutting up the sleeves again so I can sew on the ends. But that wasn't the final thing for the tunic. On the first day where I searched for the material that I needed, I couldn't find out what these things are called. So after 3 hours of searching, I came across these 2 Loki cosplayers that talked about their cosplay in detail. I learned a lot about Loki's outfits and I also found out that these things were called zipper tops. So I ordered 2000 pieces from China because I couldn't find them anywhere else, so I have to wait a little bit until they will be delivered. In the meantime I made the pants by cutting out the basic shape, marking the gold spots and cutting them out. Then I sew on the gold fabric and the diagonal stripes on the knees. I also added a zipper and snaps and some spare fabric is on the inside. For the shoe cover or shin guard, I measured the height and putting it on to see where I can sew them together. I also made something to cover the front and put on a lot of snaps. And then finally the coat. I already cut out the shapes and sewed the green and the leather parts together, so I could put the back and the front piece together. Here I tested the length and then cut out some more. And after they were all cut out, I sewed them together like that so that I can turn them inside out and then flatten them by sewing along the edges. I prepared the parts for the gold highlights and then sew it on. At first I made a really long collar, but I shortened it afterwards. Then I sew on all the long parts and also added these small details on the side. After doing that, almost all fabric parts were done, but I still had to wait for the zipper tops. So while waiting I started with the armor parts. I cut out the shape for the shoulder piece, glued on the details from thinner foam and then lightly cut in more details. Then I made a lot of these small dots and glued them on. I heat sealed it to paint on it and to make the cuts visible. Then I put on primer and painted it all black so that the golden wax will be visible even better. And this is how I made every armor piece. Cutting out the shape, making details, putting on the dots and finally the paint. And here are some armor pieces and the snaps on the leg part ready to be varnished. Here is how they look after the varnish is dried. Then I glued on the magnets on the tunic to attach the bracer and the shoulder armor. The cape that I'm measuring and cutting will be attached to the shoulder piece, folded like this. But before finishing that, my order arrived and I finally was able to put on all 2000 zipper tops all over the coat and tunic, and I ended up using around 2000. No, not only 2000, I'm from Germany, I counted them when they arrived. And I received 2063 and I didn't use 73, so... Then I sew on these buckles and then I glued and sew on Velcro to hold it in place. And this is the final armor piece that I attached to the armor. But the last thing that I did was gluing on some wood to the leg pouch so it doesn't slip down. And real quick before the result, this cosplay took me 131 hours to make and the material cost around $300. If you like this type of content, please leave a like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and now to the final result.